Hey everyone! Today we're talking about containers and Docker. If you're a total newbie to containers, or maybe have tried to understand them in the past and just can't seem to get it, then this video is for you. By the time we're done, you'll have built and run your first container. So let's get going. The other day, I wrote an amazing Python application that will display a random quote, basically a new quote every 5 seconds until you stop the program, and you'll see it here. By the way, I will upload this code and I'll also show it to you here in a minute if you want to use this as we're creating the container as we go along. It is super impressive, I must say. But I have a nephew who's getting into computers, and I thought it would be fun for him to look at this app and maybe dissect how it works. So I emailed over the Python code file. So I get a text from him saying, "Dude, it doesn't work." And I was like, "Dude, are you drinking coffee? How old are you?" But then the more important, obligatory response when somebody tells you it's not working, of course I had to say, "It works on my machine." I'm kind of just kidding. This is not actually my nephew, but the "works on my machine" is a common problem. Anyways, he told me that he was getting errors, one about Python not being found, so I told him to install Python, which he did, and then it worked. And this is the world's simplest application. It was an easy fix, but it brings up one of the main motivations for containers, which is you don't get the whole "works on my machine" issue, and then it doesn't work in the places you want, like in a production environment. Imagine you have a large mission-critical application. You've got teams of developers working on it all over the world. Everybody's on a different machine, different operating systems, different configurations. Some have dependencies installed and some don't. When you go to deploy it locally, everything works. Maybe it even works in a test environment, but then you get it to staging or production and nothing works. It can be a real nightmare, especially if bad things happen in production. So whether it's me working with my nephew or on a larger project, there are 3 surefire ways you could fix this problem. First, I could just pack up my computer and walk it to my nephew's house, or in the case of a team, I could buy a new server, basically clone my computer onto it so that the other computer is exactly the same as what I've been developing on. But hopefully you realize that's just not realistic, and I think we can agree that's not really an option. Second option, I could build a virtual machine that has all the code on it, give that machine to whomever, tell them to create it, and run the app on the VM. And that actually is a valid option. That would work just fine. But then the third option is to use a container. And because this video is all about containers, it's probably obvious this is the option we're going with. But I do want to spend just a second talking about the difference between these last two, the virtual machine and the containers. So containers are a way to bundle up everything the application needs so you can deploy it anywhere and it'll just work. You don't have the compatibility issues that you can get by deploying directly to a server. So for my simple Python application, it would just work even if the host computer doesn't have Python installed. Containers are also much more lightweight than a virtual machine. To understand that a little bit better, let's do a comparison between the two. So with virtual machines, you start with infrastructure. This is a physical machine that has a hard drive and memory and a processor. On top of that machine, you install an operating system, like Windows or Linux. Then on top of that, you have what's called a hypervisor, something like VMware or Hyper-V. Those are examples of hypervisors. They basically abstract away the hardware from the physical machine, which lets you create multiple virtual machines on top of one physical one. Then on top of that, we have the virtual machines. And I'm only showing 2 here, but this could be dozens or hundreds, depending on the capabilities of the underlying physical machine. But essentially, each VM is a slice of the underlying hardware. But because your apps won't be able to run directly on the hardware, each virtual machine also needs its own operating system. So again, a Windows or a Linux, which is amazing, but it actually is a problem because the operating system takes up a lot of space. It might be a gig or more of space on the hard drive. It also eats up a lot of memory and processing power. So it's a really expensive overhead that's eating up the resources of the physical machine, and it's going to be required on every single virtual machine. You might also have to pay a licensing cost for each operating system as well. So not ideal, but on top of that, then you would have your apps and the various libraries and dependencies and configuration. So that's really high level how virtual machines work. Now let's contrast that with containers. You can kind of think of containers as mini virtual machines, if that helps you to get the concept, but there are some important differences. So let's go through those. Again, we start with the infrastructure, the physical machine with the hard drive, the memory, the processor. Similar to VMs, you would then have the host operating system. Instead of the traditional hypervisor, you would have a container engine, which abstracts the underlying operating system from the physical machine. And that means that each container is going to get a slice of the underlying operating system. That means you don't need this layer right here, having to install separate operating systems for each container like you would have to do with VMs. Which is great because you don't have a bunch of OSs eating up valuable resources of the underlying physical machine. Then on top we've got the app and its libraries and dependencies and all of that in the containers. So like I said at the beginning, this is why containers are lighter weight and much faster to start, because you don't have to boot up a virtual machine and operating system every time you spin one up. The most popular technology today for containers is Docker. And to get ourselves set up for making our own containers, let's get some hands-on and go install Docker if you don't already have it. Head out to docs.docker.com/desktop. This is a free and easy install, supported on Mac, Linux, and Windows. And just scroll down and install the version for your operating system. I've already got it installed on my machine, but to test that everything is working, just open up a command line or your terminal and go docker run hello-world. Okay, there's a bunch of stuff that just happened here, so let's walk through it. First, it's going to say unable to find the image hello world :latest. So it's looking for that image locally. It didn't find it, so it's pulling it down from Docker Hub. So what does that mean? If we come out to hub.docker.com, this is basically the repository for Docker images. We'll talk more about what images are, but let's just search for hello world. Here is this image. Let's just click into it. And here we'll get details of the image. If you scroll all the way down, you'll see the example output here. That's what's appearing in our terminal right now at the moment. And you can even find out where that's coming from. The code for this particular image is out on GitHub. So if we just open up the GitHub repo here, this particular one is written in a hello.c file. So when we're running the image, we're actually just running this program right here, and you'll see the output that's being displayed right here. This output actually shows us everything that I just talked through. So it's saying the Docker client contacted the daemon. The daemon is basically the background process that manages Docker objects like images and containers and networks and all of that. But that daemon went and pulled the hello image from the Docker Hub, downloaded it locally, created a new container from that image, and that output is now appearing on the window here. Cool, so things are working. And if you go to the Docker desktop app and look at your images, this is the local image, hello world. So it got pulled down to my local machine. And then from this image, which is basically a template, we created a container based on that template. And that is the thing that is outputting to our console right now. Okay, so we just covered a whole bunch of information there, images and containers, and without knowing about it, we also talked about something called a Dockerfile. Not expecting you to understand any of that yet. Let's unpack it and go through what all of that stuff means. But first of all, if you're finding this helpful, I would super appreciate you hitting that like button so YouTube knows to share it with more people. Thank you so much. Okay, so back to all of those concepts in Docker. Let me use an analogy of building a house to hopefully make this more concrete. If you've ever built a house, you know there are a whole bunch of steps, but it roughly goes something like this. You've got a blueprint for the house that details materials and layouts and how many bedrooms and bathrooms and steps to build it. So something like use concrete for the foundation, build walls with wood paneling, and so on. And then let's say you're building a prefabricated house based on a kit. Obviously not applicable to all houses, but let's just go with it. The kit is going to include things like the windows, the walls, the roof. So it's just going to show up on a truck, and all you have to do is assemble it. And then the end result, hopefully, is that you have a fully built house that people can live in. In the Docker container world, the equivalent of this first step is called a Dockerfile. So rather than the blueprint for the house, it's basically the blueprint for ultimately the container, but we'll say start with a base Python image. We want to copy the app code, the dependencies, and then we specify the commands that we need to actually run the application. So that's in a Dockerfile. It's a literal file that sits on your file system called Dockerfile. And the way we go from the Dockerfile to the next step is with a command called docker build, and that will build or produce an image. The image is a portable package that contains everything your app needs. So the code, the libraries, the runtime. It's a read-only template that you need to create the Docker container. These images are stored in repositories. So Docker Hub, where we just were, that's a repository for images. You can grab an image for Java or Python or Node or Nginx or whatever, and use that as a baseline for building your own images. But to take us from this step of image to the final step, we want to run docker run, and that'll create the container. This is the application that runs in an isolated environment all ready for use. So it's my Python quotation app or a Hello World app or whatever app you've got. This is the end goal. So you can say that a container is just a running instance of an image. Okay, so that is also a lot, but from a big picture perspective, that's really everything you need to know. Now let's use these concepts to go containerize my Python application for generating random quotes. But clearing all of this out, let's start at the beginning by building a Dockerfile. Now I'm going to be working in VS Code. This, incidentally, is my Python application here, just a single file, app.py, that's running the program to grab something from this list of quotes. But I'm just going to create my Dockerfile over here using the new file. You don't have to be in VS Code. You can do all of this from the command line if you want. But I'll create the new file at the same level as my app.py. And it's actually called Dockerfile, capital D. And there is no extension on this. So if you're working in your file system and just creating a text document, for example, make sure it doesn't end up with a txt extension. But it is a text-based file. So you can just open it up in your favorite text editor to edit it. Now, there's lots of different things that can go in the Docker file. If you look at the documentation out here on Docker Docs, you'll see some of the common instructions. And then down here, you'll get more information about what they mean. So things like from, this is going to specify the base image that we want to extend. In our case, we want to grab the Python 3.13 image. You want to specify the working directory. Say things like copy, so go copy these code files and so on. We'll put a link to this documentation if you want to reference it, but for ours, we're going to keep things pretty simple. I'll just copy the code into my file. I will also make this available if you're following along and you want to use my code. But like I said, pretty simple. We're saying we want to use the Python 3.13 image as our base. There's a whole bunch of different Python images out there, even lots of other versions of 3.13, so you can use something else if you want. Then we want to set the working directory inside the container. My working directory where I am now is called something else. It's quote generator. But inside of the container, we're going to put this in /app. And then we say copy the application code, which in my case is just a single file, app.py. Copy that into the working directory inside the container. In the real world, you're going to have a lot more code than what I have, so you're copying probably entire directories. And then we need to specify the command to actually run the application when the container starts. So in my case, it's just Python app.py. We're using a -u here to run Python in unbuffered mode. If you don't have this and you try to run this in the container, basically your output will not refresh and it's going to look like it's not working. So that's what the -u does. Okay, so here's what we have so far. Now we need to take this Docker file and do a Docker build to make it into an image. Let me just do an ls to make sure I'm in the right spot. Okay, so I've got my Docker file at the same location as my app.py. Perfect. And then I'm going to say docker build -t, and then I need to give it a name, give the image a name. So I'm going to say quote -generator, and then the version number, I'll go with v1.0. And then the period means grab the Docker file in the current directory and run through the instructions in that file. So make sure you've got the period here at the end and hit enter. Okay, so there's stuff happening here. You'll see what's going on. We're loading the build definition from the Dockerfile, loading metadata, and so on. And when it's all done, you might expect, if we do an ls again, that you'll see the image file in this working directory. But you don't. We just see the same two files that we started with. So what's going on there? Well, Docker images are not stored as traditional files. Instead, they're stored as a series of layers that are managed by the Docker daemon. And they're optimized for reuse, meaning that multiple images can share common base layers and so on. So you're not going to see it just as a regular file. If you're on Linux, those layers are stored under var, lib, and docker. If you're on Windows or Mac, they're stored in a virtualized environment that's managed by Docker Desktop. You can see the images you have, though, by going Docker Images. And there we go. So we've got quote generator. That's the one that we just created. And then there's also the hello world that we grabbed when we were testing out Docker installation earlier. You can also see them through Docker Desktop. So back here, the desktop app, we come under Images, and you'll see there's my quote generator. Excellent. So everything worked. Now, if you do need that image as a file that you could send to somebody else, like I could send it to my nephew, for example, there is a way to do that. You can do docker save -o image.tar, and then the name that I want to give it. So this will basically export and save our image as a tar file. I'll run that. And now over here in Visual Studio, I do see it at the same level as my other files, this .tar file. Okay, cool. So we've got our image. We've seen how to view that either in Docker Desktop or with the Docker Images command, and you can also export it if you want. Now let's work on actually running the image as a container. And to do that, we're just going to say docker run. But before we do, I'm actually going to uninstall Python from my local machine just so we can be extra sure that this is working. We want to know that the Python dependency is inside of the container and that it's not relying on my local machine. So let me go uninstall that. Obviously, this is not a step that you have to take, but I just want to prove to you that our container is actually working. So I've got Python 3.13 installed on my local machine. That's how my app was working earlier. So I'll uninstall this. Okay, that worked. I will also uninstall the launcher just to be extra sure that everything has been blown away. All right, cool. So let's use the docker run command now, which I'll do back in Visual Studio. The name of my image is quote-generator. And if I were to just run this now without a version number, you'll see here that it automatically looks for the tag of latest. In my case, I don't have a tag of latest. I've only got the v1.0. So we'll need to enter that :v1.0. And let's see what we get. All right, it's working. There's our first quote. We should get one every 5 seconds. There's another one. Excellent. If we go back to Docker Desktop, here again is the image. But now if we go to containers, here is the container that's running based on my image. So again, a container is basically a running instance of the image or the blueprint. And that's all working. Excellent. We continue to get quotes, and these will continue until we do a Control-C basically to exit out of this. But again, I don't have Python installed locally. So we just have the container. This is a container we could give to somebody else without Python installed, and everything would just work like it's supposed to. So that does it for this video. Those are the basics of containers and getting started with Docker. I hope you were able to follow along and that all of this makes a little bit more sense now. If you enjoy content like this, think about subscribing and get notified when I post new videos. Thanks so much for watching.